welcome Ross McLean into our community today. Ross has been really busy trying to go from cynic of AI to now thinking it's really going to be a major disruptor, that we might finally be, on the cusp of working together instead of having it kind of disrupt our industry and then having to adapt. So excited to hear from Ross today. Ross is also the founder of Over the Shoulder, the mobile platform, however you want to say it, that is now owned by Sago. So very excited to welcome you in today, Ross. Please take it away.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So thank you for having me. I'm pleased to meet everybody. And this all sort of came up because Frankie and I went and had coffee and did a little catch-up session. And she said, so what have you been up to? And I said, I think I kind of like exploded with my sort of response. I said, I've been doing a lot. I'm no longer in my previous job. And I've spent the last 3 months doing a huge deep dive on generative AI from the perspective of a qual researcher and software developer, because those are the two things that I've done. And what's more, as Frankie kind of hinted, I said, I've kind of gone from a pretty hardcore skeptic that technology would really provide any particularly useful tools for qualitative research to someone who's at least a partial believer in that. And she said, oh, okay, so here's what you need to do. You need to come in and talk to the MRxPros about this, because we're asking the same questions and having the same conversations. And that's where this all came from. So she said, just come and show us your journey and all of the major sort of stops along the way. And that's what I'm going to do now. So my journey from AI cynic to at least partial believer started with me as a traditional qual researcher and ethnographer. So going out into people's homes and living rooms and focus groups and digging for insights and figuring out what it meant. And I loved that job. Sometimes fantasize about having that job again. But it was way back before I'd ever even imagined that technology was going to be particularly useful to qualitative research. So see, I've got this sort of axis here on the left, my belief that AI will positively affect qualitative research, and we've got it so that we can track it as all these things happen. But back then it was pretty much zero because it was science fiction to me. And then I basically went and did a job that they call by a different name, but it's the same thing, getting really tight with consumers, often through qualitative research and coming up with ideas. Still wasn't thinking about qualitative research, but then around 2003, oops, too many slides there. Remember, that was the time when smartphones were about to come out and social media was starting to blow up, and the whole digital thing was going into another round. And so I stuck with my job as a brand strategist, but I became a digital, social, mobile obsessed one. And I went through and just a deep dive on what those technologies were going to do in our space. And you can see it didn't do all that much for my belief that technology was going to be ultimately helpful for qualitative. But what it did lead to is me and a handful of qual researcher colleagues said, hey, you know what, we're going to develop a piece of software so that people can do smartphone qualitative projects. You can see, even knowing that and seeing it from the developer side, still didn't have a lot of faith. So fast forwarding, now we're at 2010 and things actually sort of start to happen. And remember, at this stage, I'm not looking at it just as a qualitative moderator, but also a software developer. And I'll be totally honest, I feel like I just heard about so many things, so many new technological advances that were going to revolutionize the whole world with qualitative research included. And every time I saw them, so things like sentiment analysis and keyword frequency analysis, I would dig deeper and deeper into them. And of course, these are the pre-generative AI versions of these. And in a lot of cases, my belief in technology and its ability to help qualitative kind of went down as a result of that, as a result of those interactions. Just because, if you dig into that stuff hard enough as a qual researcher, I don't know about you, but I would go through a sentiment analysis and just look at it down to word by word and go, well, I don't believe it. It's not getting it right. So sometimes it had a dampening effect on my enthusiasm for what qualitative could get out of technology. So it kind of seesawed, like it went up a little bit when that movie came out where the guy, oops, wait a minute, my slides are frozen. There we go. That movie came out about AI. I thought that was kind of neat, but then I continued to look and see how transcription and translation pre-generative AI were really not very useful. So I kind of seesawed and went up and down. When they got that car to drive around by itself and it didn't run over anyone for like months and months, that kind of went up. And I was pretty much in that same space around 2018 when I went on stage at Qual 360 and MRMW and a bunch of other conferences. And I made a prediction. I did a presentation about technology and qualitative. And we included a poll. See that? I've kind of doctored that slide. But we actually did have a poll. And we said, which of these things do we think are going to happen first? The ability to purchase a self-driving car that actually doesn't have a driver, put a human on Mars, And then the third one was technology will be developed that actually threatens the job of qualitative research practitioners and strategists. And I said we were going to be on Mars and in self-driving cars before anything like that happened. And that was not correct. So now let me tell you about how I've sort of started to change my mind on this and what I've been doing. Okay, so now we're at 2022. And I heard about ChatGPT, and it took me a while, but eventually I asked ChatGPT to, just like everybody else did, write a haiku about eagles in the tone of voice of Taylor Swift or whatever silly stuff. And what you get is actually pretty impressive. It's comprehensive. You're like, that was a real wow for me. But then as I dug deeper into it, I would do things like, okay, let's take some research objectives from a made up but very realistic market research proposal and put them into ChatGPT and ask it to write a discussion guide or do really helpful stuff. And my belief in this stuff went basically right back down. And I encourage people to do that. Play with these LLMs and ask them questions on things where you are an expert. Because, right now it's very good at doing giving very impressive responses, but when you look really hard at them from an expert perspective, they tend to fall apart. And yours and my ability to see AI really affecting qualitative went down. Then I had a couple of big realizations, and I can't tell you about all of them, but I'll tell you in detail about one of them. So you can imagine if you have a qualitative research app and you have hundreds of people using it, participating in different projects, you have to have a help desk so that they can reach out and they can say, hey, when is this over? Or I can't use the camera or whatever. So we had a help desk, and our help desk software one day just showed a little thing that said, hey, we have a beta rollout of an generative AI assisted set of tools on your help desk. And we signed up for the beta and we checked it out. And what we had it doing was not actually doing qualitative interviews, but it took the incoming emails from in whatever language they were, translated it to English, looked for the correct answer, the most correct answer out of all of our saved replies from all of the previous work that we've done and that we taught it, showed it to the operator, so showed it to a real human being saying, is this a good answer to this question? And then if they said yes, it would translate it back into the language of the participant and send it. And we looked at its output and it did an unbelievable job. It was one of those first moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing it really can take a bunch of disconnected, unstructured data, like a chain of help desk back and forths, and turn it into answer and save, 5 minutes, 30 minutes per help desk thing. So I had a few things like that really opened up my eyes. And then my job at Sago ended. And the next thing I did was I just went out and looked at every generative AI demo that I could see across industries, including qualitative research and MR, but outside of it as well. And hopefully we can get this visual to work. Come on, there we go. All right, can you see that? So this is how I felt when I lifted my head up from my work and looked at what was going on in the generative AI work. And I didn't create this, but I asked an LLM to create this picture. And I said, create a picture of me coming out of a manhole cover in the staging area of the Boston Marathon 30 seconds after the start gun has gone off, because that's exactly what it felt like to me. It was just like, whoa, everybody is in this. There are people developing apps. The LLMs are multiplying. And I actually kept this second photo because I love this, because we've got runners running backwards inexplicably, and we've got runners without legs very close to the front. I think that's a really great sort of reminder of just how much in its infancy the LLMs that we're looking at right now actually are. So I kept it around. But that changed my belief. And that really made me go, okay, so I'm going to go and I'm going to study LLM science. And I'm going to take all these courses on prompt engineering from Vanderbilt and Stanford and Google and OpenAI, which you can all do online and for free. And as I did this, as I learned more, my faith in it went up. And as I started to, learn how to do actual good prompt engineering, learn how to ask this thing questions in the right way, that continued to go up. And where I'm now at is me and a little cadre of my Quali colleagues, including my big sister, Jocelyn McLean, who I think is on the call today. So if you are, tip of the hat. But we're going out, we're proper cynics. So what we're doing is we're going out and doing actual projects where we take apart the process. Here are all of the tasks that need to happen in qualitative research. And we do one version of the project using, old-fashioned qualitative techniques, no generative AI whatsoever, and then doing it side by side using generative AI and starting to compare the results to get an idea of like, what can this do and what can't it do from the perspective of, I really won't believe this until I see it. And what it's done is that's actually, continuing to make me think, hey, this isn't probably going to do my interviews for me or probably going to steal my job, but it has an opportunity to help me do my job a whole lot better if I'm good at figuring out how to use it properly. So I've gone maybe not 180 degrees, but at least 120 degrees on this. And what I wanted to do is I've got a couple of parting thoughts based on this. Would love to talk with people if people want to have a longer chat after. But here's really my conclusion. Unlike most previous tech advances, generative AI will significantly affect qualitative. Generative AI's core strength is unstructured data, and qualitative research is unstructured data. So this is going to be different from a lot of the technology advances and a lot of the promises that come along. I also concluded this is a really good thing with enormous upside for the qual insights industry. It's going to take some getting used to, but you hear a lot of people saying, hey, qualitative research is too slow and becoming less and less relevant, and it's going out of style for other things. But you know what? Generative AI, I think, has a chance of making really good, well-analyzed, insightful qualitative fast enough to be much more relevant and make it more accessible to more marketers. So I think there'll be challenges, but I think there'll be a really big upside to it. And this is something that I said back in the digital social mobile days. This is the moment where we, as the market research industry, need to dig in and figure out how to do this right, because it's going to happen anyway. And if we're not leading it and figuring it out and doing it right, we'll have tech experts who come in and don't understand the qualitative insight business, and they'll be leading the way forward. So it's almost like mandatory for us to start digging in and figuring out, okay, let's put it to its paces and figure out what it can and can't do. This is my parting gift, because I know one of the things that you're going to do is we're going to break into small groups and talk about, hey, what are our points of view on this? So I've got a little scale over on the left. Earth is round. These are things that we would all agree with and can easily prove. And then over on the right, we've got things like the Easter Bunny, which we might wish they were real. We all know they're not. And those are 7 things that large language models or generative AI or ChatGPT are currently being used for in the qualitative research process. I am not saying that I believe in all or any of these as being relevant or whatever, but what I will say is that every one of these, there is a product out there and someone who will sell it to you as a qualitative researcher that says that they can do all 7 of them. So I thought that would just be a good thing to throw out there so that people could start going like, okay, what do I believe? What do I not believe? Because to me, the stunning thing is that these are all descriptions of real products that you could go and buy today and use on a project. So I'll put that out there just to make sure that we've got some good controversy circulating in this. And that's everything. Thank you very much for having me. And if anyone wants to catch up or put stuff in the comments or whatever, love to hear from as many people who are thinking and talking about this as we can.